Hey everybody, Derek here for the weekly news recap of the 2nd to the 8th of January, 2022, 23 even, shit. Well, that's not going to be the first time I do that, I don't think. Turn my light on so you get a better look. Okay, I don't look quite so much like, I don't know, that I'm Irish and extremely pale. Anyway, let's get into the news. So, this week, CES is currently going on over in Vegas. I think it's held in Vegas anyway. So the Consumer Electronics Showcase, where they show off like new TVs and new cars and a bunch of other shit. But Sony is also over there showing off their TVs and headphones and what have you. But they are also announced Project Leonardo, which is a accessibility controller kit that they are designing for the PS5 and also for PC and a bunch of other things because it is completely interoperable with other accessibility accessories. So the idea is you have these circles that also have analog sticks attached to them. They are completely, you can adjust how far the analog stick is away from the main circular area depending on, what way you want to orientate your hands. Works in tandem with many third-party accessibility accessories, so that would be good. That has been a kind of issue with accessibility things in that they don't work with each other. A lot of the time they're proprietary. So Sony has been consulting with accessibility experts, community members, and game developers to kind of get an idea of what everybody needs. So you have a bunch of a lot of these plates that you can swap in and out for your different controllers, different sizes, different orientations. Some of them are flush with the circle, some of them are just kind of scooped, some of them are scooped down, and so on like that. Some of them are giant buttons that are effectively two buttons at once, and such and so forth. You can also change the analog stick. You can change its position from the main circle. You can even change. Hang on, it's written here somewhere because I thought this was really interesting because I'd never considered it before. But players can also program the north orientation on the analog sticks to match their preferred controller orientation. So right now, like, they have the analog stick down, and you might think forward on that means go forward or whatever, but of course if you swivel it and you want the analog stick on top, you also need to change, you'll need to change like how that works. Like if you had a regular DualSense controller and turned it upside down and you still wanted pushing forward to make the character go forward, like that kind of thing. It's not something I had considered before, but yeah, it makes sense. It's a circle. Like, what way would you have it positioned? Left-handed, right-handed, and so on. It will work also with either two of them together, one by itself, or you can also have the DualSense connected. So it's like all of these kind of orientations are all fine. It might be the case that it's only your left hand that needs requirements for accessibility issues, and your right hand is fine and can hold the controller no problem, or the other way around, or what have you. Or you might need both, but also a second person to also help, and they can hold like a DualSense controller and what have you. And there's mentioned that there are a bunch of ports that you can connect other accessibility things into as well. So it's pretty cool. Right now there's no particular release date or anything for this thing. It's currently in works. Like a lot of the CES stuff is prototypes. But I don't know, it looks cool, but also it's good to see this kind of work coming from the actual platform holder itself and not a third party. And also the fact that it has interoperability with other third-party accessories and that kind of thing means it probably works on PC. You could probably get it to work on maybe Xbox and so on, but if it can work on PC, I think you're pretty good to go. Elsewhere, Beat Saber is heading to PSVR 2. So again, at CES, Sony is showing off the PSVR 2. So it's mentioning like some of the other games that are coming to it. This was kind of up in the air because Meta bought the developer behind Beat Saber, which meant it's kind of felt that it was going to be an Oculus Meta / exclusive from then on, but no, it seems like it is going to be on the PSVR 2. It was also announced that Gran Turismo 7's VR port is a free upgrade for PSVR 2 as well. It is currently unknown when Beat Saber will actually be released. It is also unknown of whether or not, if you had bought Beat Saber for PSVR, the original, whether or not it's a free upgrade or do you have to buy it again or what have you. Hey Melwin, happy Sunday to you too. So it's not clear that if you bought Pete Saber, yeah, that's the Irish version, Beat Saber, for the original PSVR platform, whether or not you are entitled to a free upgrade when it eventually comes out on PSVR 2, or if you will have to buy it again. Spoilers. You'll have to buy it again, but I guess we'll see. It's not clear. It hasn't been specified. Moving on. After multiple delays, System Shock's remake is now targeting a March release. Now, gigantic container of salt for this, because Night Dive Studios have also said that it was going to release in 2017, 2018, 2020, and 2021. So, fingers crossed, fifth time's the charm, I guess. But apparently, yes, it's going to be out in March of this year. We'll see. It has slipped its release before, and has been somewhat annoying that it keeps doing that. But it's been in development since 2016. I backed it in 2015, I think. This might be the longest Kickstarter project from backing to when it actually came out. I sometimes forget that I have actually backed the game. Okay, all the Hitman games are getting fused into one mega murder sim. So this is IO Interactive kind of taking some of the pain around the Hitman trilogy, the more recent Hitman games, in that there's Hitman 1, Hitman 2, Hitman 3, and then there's Hitman 1 Access Pack, Game of the Year Edition, Legacy Packs, and stuff like that are all somewhat the same stuff. Some of them have things that the others don't have, and that kind of thing. So it's more like they're saying, you know what? All the Hitman World of Assassination trilogy stuff is out now, so we're just gonna combine a ton of them. So basically, Hitman 3 will just become Hitman World of Assassination, and that package will now contain Hitman 1, 2, and 3. And some of the DLC, but rather annoyingly, not all of the DLC, which is kind of a pain in the hole. It would have been nice if they had just, bundled all of it together, but not quite. So Hitman 3 will become Hitman World of Assassination, will also include access to Hitman 1 and 2, through the Access Pass system. Hitman 3 owners, current Hitman 3 owners, will have a free upgrade to this on all platforms. And we are drastically simplifying the purchase experience. So this is a thing in that when Hitman 2 came out, you could buy an Access Pack or Access Pass that would allow you to port in the Hitman 1 levels into Hitman 2. And you could use Hitman 2's improved mechanics and stuff like that, but in the Hitman 1 levels. And then Hitman 3 did the same thing, but now it had to import Hitman 2 and Hitman 1 levels and stuff like that. So there were a bunch of stupid DLC things going on, and it wasn't ever clear what you were exactly getting when you bought it. So this is an attempt to make that easier to understand. But rather annoyingly, you still don't quite get everything if you have it. But the thing to keep in mind, though, is that if you are interested in the Hitman Trilogy World of Assassination thing, get Hitman 3 now, and you'll be grandfathered into this whole thing, and you won't have to buy Hitman 2, Hitman 1, the Access Pack, the Legacy Pack, all that shit. So if you're interested, I'd suggest you get it now, before the change. Okay, Epic Games, free ones for this week. So up until the 12th of January, you can get Kerbal Space Program. Kerbal Space Program is a... How to explain Kerbal Space Program? It is a rocket ship design thing that attempts to use proper physics and stuff, but it's also kind of slapstick comedy at the same time. Because ships go wrong all the time, and the Kerbals themselves are kind of somewhat like Rabbids from Ubisoft, but not as annoying. They're actually fun. Kerbal Space Program takes charge of the space program for the alien race known as the Kerbals. You have access to an array of parts to assemble fully functional spacecraft that flies, or doesn't, usually, based on realistic aerodynamic and orbital physics. So the idea of Kerbal Space Program is to actually get a successful rocket into orbit, and then after that, it's only comedy if you do it wrong. It's comedy if you do it right, Doom Training. You play Kerbal Space Program to get it wrong, I feel. Anyway, I think the idea is you get the rocket into space and then figure out, can you get a bigger rocket into space? Can you get it into space faster? And can you get it into orbit and stuff like that? And then also to the 12th of January, Shadow Tactics Aiko's Choice is a standalone DLC thing. It is a real-time I was gonna say real-time strategy, but it's not really. It's kind of an XCOM thing set in feudal Japan with ninjas and that kind of thing. So you have isometric look, directing your different party members and that kind of thing. Aiko's Choice is a DLC thing that I think just has the one character. Not sure. Actually, no, it's a lot closer to something like Wasteland now that I look at it. But I don't think it's not turn-based, it's real-time. Isometric stealth 'em up thing with ninjas, which makes sense because, you know, it sort of invented the whole genre. Ordinarily, this would be the part of the show. I'm going to call it a show. Ordinarily, this would be the part where we talk about new releases, but there aren't any, so we're going to move on. It is now, unfortunately, time to talk about the worst parts of video games, the video game industry. So, after a bad year for NFTs, Square Enix boss says companies still all in for them. Why? Why are you doing this? I was potentially thinking of putting this in the dumb stuff category, just because it's such a stupid idea, but no, they're still all go for it. The company is doubling down on blockchain entertainment heading into 2023, whatever that means. They never explain what that means. So this is from Matsuda, the CEO. We are most focused on blockchain entertainment. This is the company behind Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, you know, all of those games. And nope, but their most focused thing is blockchain entertainment. And their piece of evidence citing for why this is going to be popular is because Web 3.0 has become a firmly established buzzword among business people. That's it. That's all they're going for. Not that it's a buzzword for something terrible, just that it's a buzzword and we should get in on it. What are you doing? Like, there are other buzzwords, you know, shovelware is a buzzword, vaporware is a buzzword. Terrible fucking idea is a buzzword. But no, we're gonna go for it. Okay. This is after, like, the FTX shit. The massive amount of rug pulls that are happening with NFTs and that kind of thing. If this proves to have been a step in a process that leads to the creation of rules and a more transparent business environment, it will have been a good idea. If is doing a lot of heavy lifting there in that sentence. This is the idea that, like, the current lawsuit, a criminal lawsuit against the FTX guy, currently ongoing, the like huge embezzlement scandals and stuff like that, that's just growing pains for the industry. Not that it's a bad thing you should not be attached to. They did say this last year. So 2022's New Year letter to shareholders was also about NFT blockchain shit, and nothing came of it this year, other than them selling off a bunch of really valuable IP for a pittance to fund their attempts to get into blockchain AI stuff. So they sold off Tomb Raider, Deus Ex, Legacy of Kain, Thief. Like, I'm kind of glad because they were doing nothing with them, but also, you idiots. But either way, in this new letter, Matsuda once again doesn't lay out any specific or even a vague plan of what he plans to do with NFTs or blockchain stuff. He's just throwing out buzzwords. It's just chum for investment, possibly. That's the more charitable interpretation I have for it, is that, blockchain, NFTs, crypto, whatever. He's just throwing out buzzwords to get investment. Hopefully. And doesn't actually believe any of this shit. Like, the idea with blockchain NFT games is that you would own the thing that you're playing with. It's probably not good then that Square Enix just last year shut down 3 live service games. Probably not good look. Do you think, would you trust them with that kind of thing? Shut down Babylon's Fall, shut down Chocobo GP, shut down the Final Fantasy VII First Soldier Battle Royale thing. They don't have the best track record for this kind of thing. Anyway. Moving on. Microsoft recognizes 300-person ZeniMax Testers Union. So, Microsoft has voluntarily recognized a union formed of about 300 ZeniMax Studio testers. Nay. would not trust Square Enix. I very much would not in this sense. It mostly just shows that modern Square Enix is not, it's not classic Square Enix, certainly. So Microsoft voluntarily recognized a union of testers that are spread across studios like Arcane, Bethesda, and id Software. Testers are currently working on a raft of games, including Redfall and Starfield, and probably whatever id are up to at the moment. It's the first time Microsoft has agreed to recognize a union. Now, this partial bit of a sentence is insane, because it's not the first time Xbox has recognized a union. It's not the first time Microsoft has recognized a video game union. It's the first time Microsoft, who've been around since computers, basically, not quite, but more or less, personal computers certainly, have agreed to recognize a union at all. That's insane. How have they gotten this far without having to recognize a union? And the idea is, or the conspiracy theory, if you like, is they're only doing this because of their FTC thing, where they're trying to buy Activision and they don't want to be seen as bad for employment. Because obviously Activision are definitely seen as bad for employment right now. I guess they want to be seen as, no, we're different. When we acquire them, we'll be better. We'll be better at it, but it's still kind of nuts. Just US things, I guess so. So this is from Victoria Banos, Senior QA Audio Tester, with ZeniMax. Before us is an opportunity to make big changes and bring equity to the video game industry. We want to put an end to sudden periods of crunch, unfair pay, and lack of growth opportunities within the company. Our union will push for truly competitive pay, better communication between management and workers, a clear path for those that want to progress their career, and more. Certainly the sudden periods of crunch are a bit insane, as someone who has done. Union is a bad word in USA, unfortunately. Hopefully that is turning around. People realize just how badly they're getting shafted. As someone who has worked in QA for video games, the ridiculous periods of crunch are insane. And they're just like out of nowhere. It's just Monday morning, you roll in, right, super crunch time, let's go guys. We'll pay you overtime. And to be fair, the company I was with did pay overtime, probably because we're in the EU and they're kind of required to do it, but still, it's shitty. I would not want a career out of it. In fact, I very much said to myself that this is not the job we want, Eric. Move on. From Dylan Burton, Senior QA Tester, it's difficult to express in words just how much winning our union matters to us. We've been working so hard to get here that it would be impossible not to be excited. We know this is not the end of our hard work, but reaching this milestone gives us faith that when workers stand together, we can accomplish anything we set our minds to. So with this latest union, that means all of the current video game QA tester unions are under Microsoft, potentially. If the acquisition of Activision goes ahead, every single new video game QA tester union is under Microsoft. Not sure what that says about Microsoft exactly, but there we are. Because ZeniMax they own, and the other unions that are currently have been formed all belong to Activision Blizzard. Or are, sorry, not belong to, are under, or in partnership with. How do you explain how that works? But yeah. Anyway. There's probably something to be said there, but I don't think I'm smart enough to come up with it. CD Projekt to settle Cyberpunk 2077 investor lawsuit for $1.85 million. That is a lot of money to one person. It is a tiny amount of money as a class action lawsuit, but okay. This is a class action lawsuit brought in 2020, and it was alleging that it had misled investors over the quality of Cyberpunk 2077 when it launched. Initially, it had hid the issue that it was basically unplayable on PS4 and Xbox One. Yes, Xbox One and PS4. Which were later cancelled. Like, they just didn't launch it after that. When the true details entered the market, investors suffered damages. So this is again an SEC issue in that you have misled your investors. You are meant to never lie to your investors. Not that they don't ever do that, but this was a pretty bad one. The initial damages were estimated to be $11 million, and they only got $1.85 million, which you might think is considerably less than what they wanted. And it boils down to less than 50 cents per share, which is an insulting amount of money. It's like, why did you even bother? I don't think you'll even recoup your legal costs with this. Anyway, Why did you bother, guys? Why did you bother? Alright, Battle Royale Deathverse Let It Die dev to temporarily suspend the game just 4 months after launch. This is another live service that has launched into a market that is just saturated with them. People have, I feel, people who are interested in these types of games, who are interested in the live service Battle Royale Fortnite deal, Fortnite, PUBG, that kind of thing, Warzone, have the game. They have the game they want at this point and are not interested in another one, or do not have the time for another one because the game that they are in, the game that they are into and have invested in, requires so much of their time. Like, they're incredibly grindy. They are basically second jobs. And trying to launch another game into that market that is going to require the same amount of grind is an enormous mistake. Anyway, Deathverse Let It Die has been confirmed that it will be indefinitely suspended 4 months after its debut. It is a free-to-play game on Steam and PlayStation currently, but in July it will be discontinued for an undetermined amount of time. 18th of July 2023 is when it will be taken down. No relaunch date has yet been confirmed. From the developers, the development and operations teams have made the decision to temporarily suspend the game's services while we develop Deathverse Let It Die. While we redevelop. So they're basically going back to developing the game. This isn't like a bug fix patch thing that they're planning. This is, we're just going to make the game again. we're just going to try again. No formal word on possible compensation for players who have shelled out for DLC and in-game purchases. So basically, whatever money you've put into it, you can just say goodbye to it. Pretty much. I mean, in general, you are doing that. Anytime you put money into a game, you're kind of just saying, that's gone. There's no investment coming back on that. Now, there are precedent for a game, a live service, being taken down, going through extensive redevelopment, and then launching to incredible critical praise. And the only game that I can think of that has done that is Final Fantasy XIV. Like, when that launched initially, it was garbage. They took it down, spent, I think, a year and a half or something redeveloping it, and when it launched again, it was incredible. And now it is like one of, if not the best MMO on the market right now, and is still going strong since its initial launch like 10 years ago at this point, and it's still going. Like, WoW is dead, basically, but Final Fantasy 14, nope, still there. So Deathverse Let It Die, it wasn't just that it wasn't getting a lot of players, it was also buggy, laggy, and its matchmaking was not amazing. So, like, it has actual issues to be ironed out, but again, I would also suggest that the market is full for these kind of things at this point, unless you're going to do something very, very different. The market's full at this point. PS2 emulator development ceases following death threats. So the developer behind Ether SX2 said it doesn't make sense to continue working on a hobby which isn't fun anymore. So Ether SX2 is a PlayStation 2 emulator for Android devices. Currently, there's only one other one on the market, and you have to pay for it. Ether SX2, you did not have to pay for it; it was free. But they have now announced that they are discontinuing development of the app due to the never-ending online impersonation, complaints, demands, and death threats they've endured. Ether SX2 was always meant to be a fun hobby for me, not profit-driven. It doesn't make sense to continue working on a hobby which isn't fun anymore. Thanks to everyone who wasn't a dick for the last year. Congratulations, guys. You played yourself, basically. The only current alternative is Daemon PS2, which is a for-profit, closed-source app, so you cannot view the code. You don't know what exactly it's doing in the background. Could be running a crypto miner. You wouldn't know. Could be harvesting your data. You wouldn't know. It's kind of the issue with closed-source stuff. You have to very much trust who it's coming from. And they have also been accused of stealing source code from the team behind PCXS2, which is a open source PS2 emulator for PC. It's debatable if that's actually true, but from what I've seen, it does seem like it's probably the case. Congrats, guys. You prodded and pushed another developer too much, and they're seriously considering just stopping for good. So, yeah, good job, everybody. The video game fan base strikes again. They just can't have nice things, it seems. I think that was it. Yeah. Anyway, that's it for the news. We don't have any dumb stuff either, and I don't have a video I can play. So we're just gonna sit on this screen, I guess. CES currently ongoing isn't typically huge for video game stuff. Potentially you sometimes see peripherals, but usually it's TVs for the most part, and like ridiculous tech that's never going to actually make it to market. Mostly just looking for people investing. The Project Leonardo stuff looks interesting. Like, not for myself necessarily, but I think getting more people into games, you know, accessibility wise, would be helpful. Beat Saber coming to PSVR 2 is obviously like kind of important, as it's almost seen like the VR app or the VR game. You know, the platform not having it would be a huge blow. Hitman trying to combine everything all into one package, yeah, because if you look at the store now, it's insane. all the Hitman stuff that's there. I think that's kind of important. Square Enix going all in on NFT stuff. We still haven't seen what exactly their plan is, if they even have a plan, or if it's just buzzwords for money. More unions, all good. The CD Projekt class action lawsuit is absolutely hilarious. Less than 50 cent per share is hilarious. I can imagine those checks coming out as like, thanks. It costs more money to mail this check to me than it did to than I'll get from cashing it. Anyway, pretty fucking stupid. Moving on then. So channel update. This is the plan, as I've mentioned before. This is our roadmap, mosaic, whatever, for the first half of this year. So started this week, we started a bunch of new LPs. We started a Let's Play of The Excavation of Hobbs Barrow, which is a rural folk point-and-click horror game. We've started a Let's Play of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which is The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. I don't think I need to tell you what that is. And we've also started a Let's Play of Dead Space, the original haunted spaceship game. So we're trying to play that and get in preparation for the Dead Space remake that's out later this month. Breath of the Wild, similarly, before Tears of the Kingdom comes out. Excavation of Hobbs Barrow is just because I liked the look of the game and I wanted to play it. We also started a new series called Foley Gets Good at insert game here, and the game is Dead Cells for the first one. So we first entry of that series will be on and off. You probably won't see it every week. You might see it once a month. Maybe we'll do it that time where I check in again. How have I gotten good at Dead Cells yet? We'll see. And then also we played on Friday Evil West. Actually, I meant to click on Dead Cells. Anyway, so Dead Cells, as I'm sure some of you are probably aware of, is a roguelike Castlevania type deal. It's a 2D combat melee thing. It's fairly fast paced and pretty brutal difficulty wise. So I think we made it to the first boss like twice in the stream, and then that's about as far as we've gotten. Since then, I've hit the final boss. Actually, I haven't beaten him. He destroyed me, and I've never gotten to him since. But I'm getting better. Am I good yet? Probably not, but I'm getting better at it. Evil West, we played on Friday as part of the Foley Plays Games for a Bit series, where we just look at the first 2 to 3 hours of the game and then move on. Evil West is a cowboys versus vampires type deal, where you play the cowboy vampire hunter. It is very old school game design, so it is fairly restrictive, fairly linear, jumping into like combat arenas that are strung together through linear level spaces and stuff like that. For the most part, that's fine. Some of the restriction seems very arbitrary, but you know what? That's not the main crux of the game. The main crux of the game is the combat, and the combat is pretty fun. Certainly in the beginning you feel pretty strong and that you're like demolishing these things. Now that I am pretty far into the game, I think I'm pretty close to the end, I kind of feel like it gives you a ton of abilities. You know, you have tons of different things that you can do in the game. Tons of different attacks and weapons and, you know, launchers and juggles and crowd control and stuff like that. you don't get to use them, is my issue. Like, once you get later in the game, you start to just get swamped. I tried to say at the same time, by tons of enemies, and you just don't get to use a lot of the more interesting abilities. You're kind of having to relying on stuff you got like right at the start of the game. Your bread and butter crowd control stuff, which ends up making the game feel kind of boring because you end up having to do the same attacks over and over again instead of actually getting to use a pretty deep combat system. That's kind of frustrating. Something I probably would have changed is just give the enemies less health. Some enemies just hang around longer than they should. You know, it's like, I've hit you I don't know how many times now. You just should be dead. just die. Just leave me alone. It's not like they're difficult. It's just too many of you. It's like I've done an entire full combo on you and then shot you in the face with a shotgun. Like, goodbye. You should be dead now. And they're not. You know, it's like they take like 1 or 2 extra hits and it's just dumb. In my opinion. This is my opinion for it. I'm having fun with it, but there are definitely some things I would have changed for balance issues. Anyway, moving on to next week. Next week, that's the wrong thing, but you can see it now. Next week, Excavation of Hobbs Barrow will be continuing. The beginning of the game, we are now in... I can't even remember the name of the town now. Village? Burney? Something like that. We have found Hobbs Barrow. We've just got there at the end of the first stream. We've met some of the locals. We are very much not welcome here. We've met a creepy cat. They don't want us here. It's a lot of there's a lot of the Wicker Man I'm getting vibes, and there's a lot of Hot Fuzz, but not a comedy to it. But I'm enjoying it. It's really interesting gameplay wise. Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, again, we will be continuing with this. Breath of the Wild is an enormous game. What I've restricted myself to doing on stream, at least, is that we're going to be doing the main dungeons, some of the more interesting shrines and puzzles, the more interesting interactions in the game, and that kind of thing. Whereas off stream, I will just be doing the miscellaneous shrines, you know, collecting Korok seeds and that kind of thing. I've also decided that off stream, I won't go outside of the map area that we have uncovered on stream. So that's my... also a restriction, so I don't end up doing things accidentally, basically. We're just going to stay within the confines of whatever I have discovered on stream. So we'll be continuing that on Thursday. Friday, we're going to take a look at The Chant as part of Foley Plays Games for a bit, so we're going to take a look at the first 2 to 3 hours of this game. It is a modern-day kind of wellness cult thing. That goes a bit awry and you accidentally summon an Eldritch Being. Oops. Shenanigans. And now you're like the only person left sane on the island, and you need to survive, find your sister, potentially, and, you know, deal with Eldritch Horror shenanigans that you're not seeing much of in the trailer. I'll skip ahead a bit. Anyway, Eldritch Horrible things. It's a bit Alan Wake. Maybe a bit more close range Alan Wake, but it has that kind of vibe to it. That's what I'm getting from it anyway. And we'll play a little bit of that on Friday. And then every time, you get another look at it there again. Anyway. Dead Space, which we started yesterday. Dead Space 2008 is EA's attempt at a Resident Evil, and it's a pretty good attempt. It's a very good haunted spaceship thing. Isaac Clarke goes to the Ishimura. They recovered some kind of alien relic that has turned the entire spaceship into hideous undead mutation things that are now very much intent on ripping your face off. And you are very much intent on not having them rip your face off, and that's kind of the crux of the game. It's get out, you're on this ship, you're stranded now because your ship was destroyed on the way in, and you need to get this ship back operational, possibly deal with this alien artifact thing, and, you know, not die, preferably. And we're going to continue with that. We're actually going to double up on Dead Space. Oops, not that. Now, this time I really did press the wrong button. We're actually going to double up on Dead Space next week. So we're going to play it again tomorrow, and then again on Saturday. Excavation of Hobbs Barrow Wednesday. Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild on Thursday. The Chant on Friday. And then we'll be back around to the weekly news recap on Sunday. So that is the plan for next week. Dead Space I'm doubling up on because I kind of want to be done before the remake comes out. As I said on stream, I'm probably not going to play the remake immediately when it comes out. I'm probably going to wait until it hits a sale discount thing, because the price it's going at the moment is too much. I can't afford something like that, so I'm going to wait for it to drop. But also, I need to get back to the Resident Evil series, because I do definitely want to play Resident Evil 4 Remake when that comes out, which is the end of March. So we still have... I've slightly changed my run for the Resident Evil series. I'm planning on doing the remakes now instead. I was doing them in release order, but now I think if we're going to have it make sense for me to do Resident Evil 4 Remake, we're going to have to change it a little bit. So we've already done Resident Evil 1 and Resident Evil 2, the OGs. I will come back to Resident Evil 2 eventually, because I want to do the reverse of the scenarios that we've done, and I also want to do the Hunk sub-game. So we're going to do the Resident Evil 1 remake, the Resident Evil 2 remake, Nemesis, the Nemesis remake, then Resident Evil 4, and then the Resident Evil 4 remake. Potentially. I'm not sure yet. I think we will do the Resident Evil 1 remake, and then we might just skip to Resident Evil 4 and do the 4 remake when that comes out, depending on how the schedule lines up. I think... maybe? Because if we're only doing once a week, Resident Evil 4 is a longer game than most people think. Like, it's pretty lengthy. It's a lot longer than any of the Resident Evils before that, so it's possible we might only have it finished before Remake comes out. So, I don't know. I'll have to see how my schedule works out. Anyway, that is the plan for next week. Thanks for dropping by, Melwin and Doomtrain Inc. If you want to catch up on any of those videos that I mentioned, you can find them over on youtube.com/Doomtrain5. That's where all of the VODs stream archives are all kept, as well as plenty of videos from before I started streaming. And if you want to join in on the chat in the live stream, you can find that at twitch.tv/Doomtrain5. Okay, I'm going to head off. Have a good rest of your day. Hopefully see some of you tomorrow for Dead Space. Right. Bye-bye.